let's talk about the games this weekend. Tonight we have a big time matchup between the Packers and the Eagles in Brazil. This is the first game to be hosted in Brazil. There's a lot of fantasy implications tonight. There were a lot of fantasy implications last night with the Ravens and Chiefs. The NFL just said, hey, let's put all the fantasy players in the first 2 nights of football and hope Sunday we have something. What do you guys think about these two matchups? Who are the players that you are starting this week? Derek, you pick two. I'll pick two. Sean, you can pick two also.
I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts. I mean, if you drafted Jalen Hurts in one QB, you spent a high draft pick on him at the expense of other positions. If you drafted him in super flex or 2 QB, you're expecting him to be kind of the anchor of your roster. So you're starting him. You're starting him every week he plays, basically. And then the other one, Josh Jacobs. I'm really high on Josh Jacobs. He has basically no carry competition going into week one. I think they might lean on him in this offense. And I think this offense is able to create running lanes better than many of the other offenses in the league. So I'm really high on Josh Jacobs. Those two, if you have them, you're running them out there tonight.
Yeah. Josh Jacobs, you mentioned, has no running back room. Marshawn Lloyd's still hurt, I believe. AJ Dillon, who vultures touchdowns in the red zone, is out for the year. It's really his game until Marshawn Lloyd comes back. So it's a good call there. Sean, who do you got in this game?
Well, Josh Jacobs would have been obviously is one of them. There's no competition there. I think though with the Eagles, it would be Devontae Smith. I think once again he's going to have a pretty good season. I think tonight's going to be pretty good showing of that. The only other player for Green Bay, I mean, I'm a big Reed guy, so I'd start Reed. I know that receiving group is going to be pretty competitive, but I think Reed is going to lead the way.
Yeah, I think Jaden is the key target there in the Packers offense to start. I'm a little weary about all four of the receivers with Watson, Dobbs, Reed, and Wicks on which is the guy that stands out. None of them are like the alpha wide receiver like the Eagles have. The Eagles have two alpha wide receivers that can both demand a lot of targets and a lot of points in fantasy. You mentioned Devonta Smith. Obviously you got to start AJ Brown. That is a wide receiver one in the NFL and in fantasy. And then of course you got Jordan Love as well. So there's 6 players: Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, and Jaden Reed. So 7 of those.
Yeah.
Derek,
the nice thing about Reed, he's kind of the Swiss Army knife in that offense. So he plays a role that the other guys don't. And I think that gives him an edge over the other receivers for me.
That is true.
And keep an eye on Tucker Kraft, whether or not he plays. That could impact Musgrave if he's the only tight end. I think we may have been about to talk about some of the other guys, though.
Who are you avoiding starting? Like who is the guy that you're putting on the bench no matter what this week?
It is. It's kind of team by team, but it's really you're watching those tight ends for Green Bay. If you waited at tight end, you very well might have Luke Musgrave and someone else. If Kraft goes tonight, it may be kind of a wait and see situation to see how that tight end room plays out. If they're both active, if Kraft is inactive, I feel a little more comfortable starting Musgrave.
Okay. Sean, who are you avoiding tonight in this matchup?
That's such a difficult question. Just trying to figure that out. It's really, I think
be any player out there that is most likely drafted.
Yeah, but it's just both sides are so stacked. I'm thinking with Derek though. I mean, you have to see the tight end situation with Musgrave and Kraft. If Kraft obviously plays, we have to figure out what Green Bay is going to do with that tight end situation. Obviously going forward, and then with other receivers too. So I think it's more on the Green Bay side of who to avoid than the Philly side.
I would avoid having any of these guys in your flex spot. Just good lineup
management. Made a mistake last night.
Get them in.
So wait, Derek, you were saying do not put these guys in your starting lineup. Like that's crazy. No. What Derek is talking about is if you have one of these guys, put them in your wide receiver slot, your running back slot, your quarterback slot. Do not put them in a flex or super flex position because you want to reserve those guys for injuries later. You're starting them obviously, but you have more flexibility if you're able to put those guys into a flex later on. I actually do have a guy that I would avoid starting altogether in this game, and that's Jahan Dotson, especially like in a flex position, because you're not putting him in the starting wide receiver spot. And now he goes from wide receiver 2 for the Commanders to wide receiver 3 question mark for the Eagles. And then you got the Packers defense. Like I'm that's a guy I'm avoiding altogether. Hopefully you don't have him on your roster, but if you do, he should be on your bench this week.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Steelers Falcons, 1:00 on Sunday. This is interesting. There's a new quarterback no matter what happens for the Steelers this week. On both sides of the ball, you got Kirk Cousins, and then you got Russell Wilson / Justin Fields, whoever starts. As noted, Russell Wilson's dealing with a calf injury, so he might not play this Sunday. It might be Justin Fields going. With that being said, are either of you starting Russell Wilson or Justin Fields? If you have both, are you starting one of them?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Correct. That's
yeah,
the correct.
Yeah,
both players.
I mean, if you're in a super flex league, you may not have a better
I would take the risk on Fields if it's super flex and he gets the start. I would take that risk, but
one QB,
if it's just
no thanks.
Not in one QB. Super flex, I would definitely take the risk on Justin Fields, mostly because he's going to try to win that job in week 1 if he gets the chance. This is bad news for Russell Wilson because I think this also, I mean, this is what Justin Fields needs. All he has to do is show a shot that he can be the starter, and Russell might not ever see the field as a Steeler if he doesn't make this week. That's a real possibility.
Nice thing about Fields is he's going to have that rushing floor, and if Russ is dealing with a calf injury, even if he's out there, he'll be a little hampered, so he may not have that floor. So,
accurate.
I think it's better for everyone if Russ sits this week. I think that's kind of what I'm rooting for personally from a fantasy perspective.
I cannot tell you how many drafts I went in this year, including Scott Fishbowl, where I took both. Because I knew Russ is not going to play the entire season. Fields will come in, and once Fields does, he is a better fantasy option. So,
yeah, he's just going to take over that offense, though. He's going to open up a lot more. I really hope he gets to start.
I do too. Okay, let's all pick one player out of this game. I see 4 very, very viable starters in this game, but everybody pick one. We'll start with Sean this time.
If Fields starts, I'm going Pickens. I'm going Pickens over everybody. Pickens, all the data that's came out from what he's done last year and everything, Fields is going to make him an even bigger star if he gets that start. So I'm going George Pickens. Obviously, there's a lot of better options on the Atlanta side, but yeah, I'm going George Pickens.
Agreed. Sean or Derek, who do you got?
I think I'm higher on Najee than a lot of people are this year. I think no matter who the starting quarterback is, I think he'll have plenty of opportunities. And last year he was really good after contact. If he was, I believe, 3rd or 4th in yards after contact. Just a really good back who's going to get some volume in that offense. Arthur Smith has tended to kind of elevate some like he made Tyler Algier relevant a couple years ago. I think he can do the same with Najee this year. And then, you have some obvious guys like Bijan you're probably starting. I don't see how you could not start Bijan, and you don't really have to think about that too much. And then keep an eye on Kyle Pitts and whether or not he's active. He had a little hamstring tweak, I think.
I think they still say he's good to go Sunday.
Is he good to go? That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. So I think Najee, though, he's kind of on that low end RB2 range, and I would feel pretty confident starting him this week.
Yeah, the only other guy I would say here would be Drake London. You have to start Drake London. And we hope that Kirk Cousins elevates Drake London's play because he's already been good, but I think with an actual real quarterback, he's going to be even better. So he'll probably flirt with that top 12 wide receiver range there. Let's move on to the Cardinals at Bills. I'm concerned about the Bills offense. I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen other than James Cook is going to get handed the ball sometimes, and Dalton Kincaid is going to catch the ball a lot.
Yeah.
Outside of that, and Josh Allen running the ball and throwing the ball, is there another guy outside of those 3 that you're starting this week?
I would start Curtis Samuel, but I mean, even then, you're still got to figure out that wide receiver room. And then I think he also is dealing with the turf toe from like 2 weeks ago or something like that too. So that again, it's another questionable receiving group that you just have to wait to see it play out and everything.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm fine with missing out on the Bills receivers this week. If I have them, I'm probably not starting them unless I have to. I just there's so much uncertainty. It could be a situation that is uncertain all season. And I just want to see it for a couple weeks and kind of see how that plays out.
I think eventually the Bills keep talking up Khalil Shakir. I'm tired. Like, can we stop trying to make Khalil Shakir a thing? This is the second time I've referenced Mean Girls this week. Keon Coleman, however, I mean, we've seen Xavier Worthy pop off last night. Zay Flowers has done well as a rookie. Rashi Rice has done well as a rookie. We've seen other wide receivers with a very talented quarterback in the league do really well. Keon Coleman could be that guy, but I think I'm still holding off just to see what he does in week one. You didn't draft him to be a starter, hopefully, anyway. So just wait one more week, see how that does before you move on. On the Cardinals side of the ball, obviously, you got Kyler Murray. You probably drafted him as your QB1. And if you have him in super flex, even better. Marvin Harrison Jr., we talked about Keon Coleman waiting off a week. Marvin Harrison Jr., you drafted in the top 2 rounds of the draft. That is somebody that I would be starting this week. And of course, Trey McBride is one of the top 5 tight ends in the league. You have to start him if you drafted him. Any disagreements on any of those?
No.
Nope.
I love Arizona stack. I'm so excited for this offense.
Yeah.
I'd even throw James Conner in there, honestly. I mean, he was very like, you could count on him last year when he was out there. He was going to be a RB1 or RB2. So I don't see that changing.
I'm a little concerned. Well, week 1, okay. I think down the stretch, I think it'll be Trey Benson taking that load.
I agree with that. Yeah. I think week 1, though.
Any
Connor's the guy.
guys here you're avoiding? I mean, we talked about pretty much the entire Bills wide receiver room, and maybe not starting any of them other than maybe Curtis Samuel if he's healthy. Anybody else you're avoiding though? Michael Dortch, are you guys sold on Michael Dortch yet?
No.
No.
I'm
starting Greg Dortch and Scott Fishbowl because of
Did I say Michael Dortch? Greg
you
Dortch?
did. Yeah, it's okay. I was gonna let it go.
I read Michael Wilson and then I read
Michael
Dortch.
I thought we were just combining their very tall wide receiver and their very short wide receiver.
I think you could start almost any other wide receiver from Arizona, though, because the Bills' secondary is beat up. I think the Cardinals are going to just eat away through like all 4 quarters. So I really think you can look at any Cardinals receivers this week and be okay with it.
If you're in a really deep league and you need to start Michael Wilson, you could do worse than that. But yeah, I'm rolling with Dortch and Scott Fishbowl only because if your league happens to have kick return or punt return yards, he might have some upside there. And he came on really strong at the end of the year last year with Kyler back, and he was, kind of the only option in that offense down the stretch. So I think Dortch is a sleeper this year. I don't know if I start him with confidence week 1, but keep an eye on him.
Awesome. Let's move on to the Titans at the Bears. Obviously, this is Caleb Williams' first career NFL game and first overall pick. QBs are 0-14-1 in their debut in the NFL. With that being said, are you starting Caleb Williams this week?
I didn't really draft him across my leagues. I'm really not on the Caleb Williams boat. Maybe down the season, yeah, but right now, no.
Yeah, it's tough because we don't really know what to expect from that Titans defense yet either. They kind of are in transition. If you can wait a week on Caleb Williams, if you drafted 2 quarterbacks in a 1 quarterback league and you have, say, like Kirk Cousins behind him, someone like that, I would probably err more on the side of the veteran just to let Caleb get kind of those first 2 rookie starts out of the way. But at the same time, he looked very comfortable and very good in the preseason, and he has a lot of weapons. He has a nice little safety net there with the players surrounding him. It's just there's a lot of variance there. There's a very low floor for rookie quarterbacks in their first start. But at the same time, I think Marcus Mariota had 4 touchdowns or 5 touchdowns in his first start. You just have to kind of be okay with the floor if you're going to start him.
Yeah. From this game, I really only see 2 starters. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen. Those are the 2 clear-cut wide receivers that I would start with confidence this week. I know Keenan Allen is like 295,000 pounds or something like that. 270, I think. I'm not worried about that. I think he's still going to ball. He is the veteran in that locker room, especially on that offense. That offense is so young now. I think Keenan still does great. Rome, you might look at. I don't think I'd start Rome with confidence, but similar to Keon Coleman, wait and see what
Yeah,
does he do on that
approach.
offense.
Yeah, I'm okay missing his first good game. That's kind of how I take a lot of the rookies.
Yeah. As far as the Titans go, this is not my homerism and bias. I'm not starting a single Titans player this week. I don't even care if I have Calvin Ridley. I'm not starting Calvin Ridley. I'm not starting any of them. I do either of you disagree? Agree with me? Do you think Calvin Ridley is a start this week?
I think there's better options that you most likely have on your team to where you can avoid him.
Yeah, he's the best wide receiver 3 for me. I'm not a fan of that offense going into this year. They're underdogs. I don't know. I have a lot of worries with that offense, and if I can avoid starting probably any of them, you're probably right, Justin. I mean, I have a lot of Tyjae Spears, so I'm probably going to end up starting him in some leagues, and that may not go well for me.
Tyjae is about the only person on that offense that I would feel okay starting, and that's not even a certainty yet. I mean,
yeah, because
they signed Tony Pollard,
yeah,
and I keep forgetting this. Tony Pollard just got there this offseason. It feels like Tony Pollard's been there for like 2 years and has been disappointing the entire 2 years, but it's so new still. So they're gonna play Tony Pollard. And we all know I don't have to keep talking about Calvin Ridley. I don't think he's worth it. But yeah, I wouldn't be starting any of these guys this week. And that's just the winner talk in me. So the only thing that does look good for them, though, is the fact that not Bears QBs, first overall picks are 0-14-1. So theoretically, the Titans have to win, and to be able to win, they have to score points. So some of these players have to score the points on that team. I don't know who, but some of them do. And that's
it's going to be scattered.
It's going to be a 6-0 game. I'm calling it here now. Patriots at the Bengals. Jamar Chase is expected to play on Sunday. T. Higgins is injured, so he's not practicing today. Jamar Chase has practiced all week. He's been limited in practices, which is fine. He needs to be limited in practices. He hasn't practiced at all this offseason. So in this game, we got Jacoby Brissett and that Patriots offense, including Ramondre Stevenson. Is there any Patriot that you're starting this week?
Stevenson is like the only one that I would, just because he's probably going to be leaned on the most with that offense right now. But yeah, no one else from the Patriots.
Like we said, somebody has to be that offense, and Stevenson, I guess, would be the default there.
Yeah.
The Patriots had the lowest implied total this week. They're only expected by Vegas to score 16 points. And so, I mean, like you said, Stevenson's the only guy on my radar to start. I mean, you could kind of go galaxy brain with it and think if they're playing from behind, maybe Antonio Gibson gets a lot of dump offs in a PPR league. I don't know. If it's a deep league, maybe take a shot on that. But I'm kind of avoiding the Patriots going into this week. They have some interesting young wide receivers and kind of a vacuum at that position. We don't know who is going to step up. So I definitely keep an eye on it and see if there's any guys going forward that might be useful. But this week, kind of avoiding that whole team.
Yeah. On the opposite side of the ball, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, those are guys that if they're healthy and 100% to go, I would play them. This is Joe Burrow's first offseason where he did not get injured so far. So, well, offseason's over. The season has started. So he did not get injured for the first time this offseason. So that's great. He had a full offseason. That's fantastic. Other than those two guys, are we starting Mike Gesicki this week?
No.
No. You didn't draft him to be your tight end one. He's probably actually a waiver candidate. So
I was going to say,
if he does well, you might go pick him up on waivers this week. Let's
He's
move
not
on.
a bad streaming option. Like if you didn't draft a tight end and you want to, and like you're just
Agreed.
pulling someone off waivers, he's not the worst streaming option, but hopefully you have a better option.
Agreed. Gesicki, Jonnu Smith, guys like that. Those are guys that you're streaming, and maybe you have both of them and can run this season with those two. But those are definitely guys that I would be streaming this year. Texans at Colts, 1:00. Colts are 0-9-1 in week 1 since 2014. That's tough. That's a stat right there.
Yeah.
That's a stat. And then, of course, they bring in CJ Stroud and the Texans offense, who are dynamic. They're electric. And we honestly, living in Indianapolis, I don't even know which defensive back is going to cover which guy at this point. So with that being said, on the Texan side of the ball, who are you starting? Who are you avoiding, Sean?
Man, it's another crowded wide receiver room. I want to go towards Diggs, but I don't know if I'm there yet. I think it's another, for me at least, it's another wait and see approach for a couple weeks, see where the ball goes, to those receivers. Obviously, CJ Stroud I don't think you can pass him up and not start him. But yeah, receiver wise, I really don't know.
Derek?
Yeah, I think if you have one of those guys, Diggs, Collins, Dell, I think you're starting them. Those are guys I don't want to miss out on because I've seen them do it before, and now they're in a good offense, good situation, good quarterback going up against a team that, like Justin was saying, the secondary is a huge question mark. So I'm good with them. Schultz is a guy I'm a little more wary of because he's kind of right on that tight end one fringe, and it's a very crowded pass catching core now. Even Joe Mixon catches passes, so I think Schultz might be a guy that if I have a better option, I might kind of lean toward it, just because there are a lot of mouths to feed in that offense.
Yeah, I'm on the Diggs train here though. I'll disagree a little bit. I think Diggs is going to be fine. Week 1, he's going to want to prove that I'm the guy you traded for, and he's going to ball out. They named him a captain on the team this year already, so I think him and Stroud have already formed a bond there. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be Diggs' ball. He's going to demand the ball from Stroud, and when you are your second-year quarterback, what are you going to do when the veteran wide receiver is saying, "Hey, give me the ball"? You're gonna throw him the ball. So I'm going to go that route. On the opposite side of the ball, the Colts, Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman Jr., the trio. I'm starting all three with no hesitation. I'm going to start all three and just hope for the best. I mean, when Anthony Richardson is playing, he's scoring 20-plus points. I just hope he can stay on the field. So that's my only reservation about him.
That game is the 5th highest over-under this week, so it's expected to be a little bit of a shootout. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm feeling pretty confident starting the top 3 guys in that offense.
There's been a lot of chirping on the off season too between CJ Stroud and Zaire Franklin specifically and EJ Speed with their 2 podcasts. I was actually just listening to In the Trenches with Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed, and they started the show off with CJ Stroud's comments about the Colts. And it's going to be a good rivalry game to start the season. On the opposite side here, people that you're absolutely avoiding this week, the entire tight end room for the Colts should not even be drafted. I've been saying that all off season. Do not start any of them. They're going to be disappointing. It's one of those crowded tight end rooms. You don't know what's going to happen yet. And I would not be even considering any of them for several weeks. Any guys in this game you're avoiding altogether?
Uh,
I think it's anyone that plays tight end. I'm okay benching
Dalton
Schultz this
Schultz
week
too.
also.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
There's
Yeah.
too many receivers and running back options to. Who cares about the tight end in this game?
right. Yeah, let's just who
That's
cares
gonna
about
be
tight
the-
end in general? I
That's
guess.
be the one
So,
position that scores the most in this game now. Watch.
probably absolutely
Somebody's gonna go off.
guaranteed.
Schultz
Yeah.
had 3 touchdowns. I mean, we saw Isaiah Likely be the top scorer yesterday. So, well, you guys
It
saw
can
it. I
happen.
didn't see it. Next up, we've got the Jaguars and Dolphins. The series is tied 5-5. We obviously have Tyreek Hill. We've got Jalen Waddle, Evan Ingram. Those guys are Travis Etienne even. Those guys I think are absolute locks. You start them no matter what, especially Tyreek Hill, especially Evan Ingram. They're the top 3 in their position, probably, maybe top 5 for Evan Ingram. That's just me, I think. Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa. You're starting neither of them.
Tua easily.
Okay. Derek, are you starting either of them?
Yeah, Tua is good. I'm good with starting Tua. Trevor Lawrence was. I think people remember his season being worse than it was last year. He was like a low end QB1 most weeks, and going in against Miami, I feel okay starting him. If you drafted Trevor Lawrence, you probably drafted another quarterback in like the 15-16 range, like a Matt Stafford or Kirk Cousins, that one of those guys. And I think I would lean Trevor Lawrence this week. Going into a new season, I'm optimistic about Trevor Lawrence this year. I think he might.
Yeah, I don't think he's a be bad or anything. It's not like he's a bad quarterback.
Yeah. A lot of people are drafting Devon Achane to be one of their top running backs on their fantasy teams. Do you believe that Achane and that Dolphins offense will continue to be Achane when he plays in games? Or do you think it's going to be a split backfield? I mean, we saw Jonnu Smith apparently lining up as fullback in practices. So are you starting any of the Dolphins running backs this week? Or are you avoiding it?
It's definitely a split backfield, but the nice thing about those two guys, Mostert and Achane, or whoever the second is, if one of them is out, is those guys only need 10 to 12 touches to make an impact. And especially Achane. Achane, he can have a 10-touch game and be an RB1, just because he's explosive, and that offense really creates space for all of their speed, guys. So I'm okay starting both of them. I wouldn't roster both of them on the same team, but I feel good about starting Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane this week.
Yes, same boat. I mean, Achane, especially. I mean, minimum, carries. He's still going to be explosive. He's still going to find the end zone somehow. So, I don't think you could pass him up. I think it is a split backfield. I think McDaniels is going to get crazy with it though, and do a little bit too much with it here and there when he can.
Yeah, Achane, I feel like he's the scariest guy to have on your team and the scariest guy to not have on your team, because you just, especially if you're going against him, you just think a 50-point game is within the range of outcomes for him.
So we have a question in the chat. I was the 12th pick in the draft when Taylor, Barkley, McBride, then Kyler Murray for the stack. The next 5 rounds were devoted to wide receivers: Cooper, Neighbors, Ridley, Godwin, Sutton. Was this a good 12th round pick succession? I actually kind of like it. You did exactly what I would have done at the 12th if Taylor and Barkley were there. That was my favorite end round picks there. Taking Taylor and Barkley. I never go running back, so saying that is big for me. You get your stack with McBride and Murray out of the way, and then 5 wide receivers that could actually be pretty solid. Derek, Sean, any comments about this one?
I don't think they missed on that draft, because that's the same thing that I'd be going for. I mean, especially if you get McBride and get Murray, then yeah, you got that little stack right there, and the receivers are solid. They all have some good upside with them. So yeah, I really don't think they missed.
You have really high upside, but very low downside. Like the floor is very low, but the ceiling is very high on all 5 of those.
Yeah, I was gonna say Cooper and Neighbors definitely a lot of variance with those guys. Sutton too, Ridley also, but I think the smartest pick in that stretch was probably Godwin because I feel like he's gonna get the targets and the high percentage catches that the other guys might not get and provide a nice floor in either wide receiver or flex spot.
Yahoo is lame. They graded a D.
I
I
think that
disagree.
guarantees a championship if you get a
D
D on Yahoo.
D equals disagree. Hollywood, thanks for dropping your team in here. I like it. I give that a solid B plus. Definitely a lot better than a D. So
Yeah.
let's move on. Panthers at Saints. This is another divisional matchup. The Saints swept the Panthers. Everybody swept the Panthers last year. They were pretty bad, finishing it last in the league. But now things are looking different. Maybe. Are they? They didn't really have their first round pick. They had to trade up to get into the first round to take Xavier Legette. They got Deontay Johnson over the offseason. Do we still believe in Deontay Johnson? Their best player is not even going to be in the game. He's out for the first 4 weeks with Jonathan Brooks. Are you starting any Panther this week, including Bryce Young? No, the answer.
I'm avoiding everything. So in this matchup.
So I'm a little higher on the Panthers than almost anybody this year. I don't think they're going to be great, but I think they're going to be better. I think Canales did a great job getting the most out of Baker Mayfield last year, and I think I see Bryce Young and Baker Mayfield as similar types of players, and I think I think having a weapon like Deontay Johnson will help him. Deontay Johnson I think he's one of the best route runners in the league. He can get open a lot. So I think that's going to improve and kind of raise the floor of that offense. And I'm okay starting, like, if you went 0 RB, there weren't many running backs that were a better pick. And if you went 0 RB than Chuba Hubbard, he's going to have at least the first 4 weeks as the RB1. So if he's your RB2, you can run him out there this week. That being said, Saints are a tough matchup defensively. So, if you're avoiding all the Panthers, I don't think that's a bad strategy, but I am a little higher on them. I think that will definitely be improved, in large part because you can't do much worse than they did last year.
It's true. So are there anybody on the Panthers offense you are absolutely starting, like without hesitation?
Not without hesitation.
Okay.
I mean, Deontay's the closest. Deontay's the closest.
Deontay's a maybe.
And he would be a flex.
He's a maybe stud. Okay. On the Saints, however, outside of Chris Olave, who I think is an absolute start no matter what, do we still feel the same way about Alvin Kamara? He's being drafted as RB19 this season. So people aren't drafting him as to be their top, but they are drafting him to be one of their starters. Are you starting Alvin Kamara no matter what?
I think so, especially if we're expecting that to be a positive game script for the Saints. If the Panthers are what they were last year, the Saints swept them last year, I think you can expect Kamara to be heavily involved.
Yeah. Honestly, to me, those are the only 2 starters in this game.
Yeah, unfortunately, you might have to miss the Taysom Hill 3 touchdown game, but I just can't. I only will get Taysom Hill if it's best ball at this point because I'm not going to play.
Yeah, that's the only way.
Will he? Won't
he? Yeah. Even putting him in the tight end position, getting the running back and quarterback stats, I don't even feel comfortable with that. I'd rather start Daniel Bellinger, which segue. Vikings at the Giants. This is Darnold's first game as a Viking. He's coming back to New York for probably not the first time. I didn't keep up on his career. There's one guy in this game that I would start with confidence, and that's Justin Jefferson. Outside of Justin Jefferson, is there any guy? Well,
Aaron Jones,
Malik Neighbors, Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I'm going Aaron Jones with Jefferson.
I'm with you with Aaron Jones. Yeah. Neighbors, I mean, if you have him, you're probably starting him, but I would temper your expectations a little bit, just given what that offense is. And in fact, he's a rookie. It may take a few weeks for him to kind of become what we expect him to be at the NFL level. But Yeah, I mean, Aaron, I agree with Sean. Aaron, I think Aaron Jones, you can run out there with a decent level of confidence.
All right, Raiders at Chargers is the first afternoon game, 4:05. This is the first game under Jim Harbaugh, which we've all heard all off season. He likes to run the ball more. Justin Herbert likes to pass the ball. We'll see what happens because only one of them actually gets to hike the ball. There could be audibles. We don't know what will actually happen. There's no way that Jim Harbaugh will sit Justin Herbert because he's not following the game plan, right? Right? Like Justin Herbert is one of the elites, we think. So in this game, Devontae Adams is a clear start. Outside of Devontae Adams, is there any guy that you're like, yes, no matter what, start him?
I don't think so. Really don't. I mean, depends on, I guess, where you drafted Gus Edwards, maybe.
I'm a little hesitant on Gus Edwards. A lot of people keep saying J.K. Dobbins is gonna come back, but I'll believe that when I literally see it. Because has anybody actually ever seen J.K. Dobbins play an NFL game? It's not likely.
Yeah, I think he's a myth.
For real. Like he's an Ohio State myth at this point. Literally never seen a game where he has played in a regular season game. It's only been like 9, I think. Zamir White, RB1, put on a lot of weight this offseason. No longer has Josh Jacobs. He should be the clear-cut running back 1. Are you starting him if you have him?
I actually would, just because Pierce does, like, the whole coach and trust factor thing that you see on social media. Pierce doesn't really lie about who gets the workload, or hasn't so far in that small sample. So, I mean, if he says White's going to get the workload, White's probably going to get that workload.
Yeah, Zamir White was quite good last year down the stretch when Jacobs was out. I would expect the Chargers defense to be improved this year, just given Harbaugh's history and the fact they prioritized holding on to their defensive assets while letting their offensive assets go. But yeah, I mean, this game is a lot of wait and see. We don't really know what to expect from any of the Chargers skill position players. We don't know who's going to be getting the ball at wide receiver, at running back, or at tight end. And then on the Raiders side, Brock Bowers they spent a high draft pick on him at tight end. Historically, rookie tight ends until last year weren't very reliable, but maybe that's out the window now. But it's kind of a wait and see situation with him. And then Justin Herbert's even a little hobbled. He may not have all of his mobility going into this game. This is kind of an ugly game for fantasy. I'm kind of worried about every one of these players, and I have a ton of Devontae Adams, so I'm really hoping Minshew can just chuck the ball to him.
Let's not forget the like 70 plus points the Raiders put out on the Chargers last year. So
a week after winning a game 3-0. Or it wasn't even a week. It was like 4 days. Yeah. So
yeah. Who knows what could happen?
It's going to be a weird. That's a game. I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen.
So Josh Palmer, wide receiver 1. I've got him a lot late in drafts. I got sniped on him a lot from producer Jacob, and basically every league that we're in together, he knows that I've been going after Josh Palmer, and he listens to the show. So maybe that's a good thing. Are you starting Josh Palmer this week, or is this let's wait and see?
I'll wait and see.
I would agree.
Yeah, I'm okay missing.
I think the same goes with Brock Bowers. Yes, he's supposed to be the elite guy, but Michael Mayer also was really good last year. So I think that's another wait and see. That could be another one of those like 2 tight end sets that ends up dominating the league. Like the Patriots were back in the day of Gronk and he who should not be named.
Let's move on from that.
Anyways, Broncos Seahawks. This is another afternoon game. This is Bo Nix to start his first NFL game this week. What a tough place to do it in Seattle, one of the louder stadiums in the league. DK Metcalf, Kenneth Walker, those are the guaranteed starts, correct?
Yeah.
Outside of those 2, are there any others that you're absolutely starting? Are you starting Courtland Sutton if you have him, no matter what?
You probably have a better option above him. If you
Yeah.
don't, then
Yeah.
I'm
Hollywood, if
sorry.
you're listening, make sure you're starting one of the other guys that you have, unless you have to start 3 flex. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
there's
another
so
one of
many
those ones, like,
things.
outside of those 2 top players, like, there's not really, like I'm not starting a Bronco at this
There's
point.
No.
so many things working against the Broncos going into this game. The environment, the Seahawks have a defensive-minded coach who ran the Ravens defense last year, made them, I believe, number 1 in the league. It's a scary matchup for Bo Nix's first career game.
Yeah, that's correct. Let's move on. Jets. Nope, that's wrong. Cowboys at Browns. We got Dak Prescott. I think he's a lock in at this point on how much on starting. He's one of the top 12 quarterbacks, so you have to start him. Let's talk about Amari Cooper and Jerome Ford on the other side of the ball. Obviously, Nick Chubb is out for the first 4 weeks of the game. We saw Jerome Ford, probably one of the top waiver targets last year outside of Puka and Kyron Williams. Are you starting Jerome Ford with confidence this week?
I think so. I think the Cowboys defense can be gashed a little bit on the run. I think that is where they're most susceptible. We saw that in the playoffs last year against the Packers. Aaron Jones ran all over them. We saw it when they played the Bills last year. James Cook had a huge game. So if there is a place where the Browns can exploit the Cowboys defense, I think it's on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd agree there. Amari Cooper playing against his former team. Luckily, he doesn't have to go to Dallas. But are you starting Amari Cooper? Like, are we still sold on Amari Cooper being like one of the top elite wide receivers in the league? Yeah, even in the flex, I would think you're starting
Yeah.
Amari Cooper. So
Yeah. No, I can't pass him up. Even with Watson under center, you can't pass him up.
let's talk about the tight ends here. Oh, sorry. I mentioned Dak being the starter. CeeDee Lamb obviously is a starter. You start him if you have him. You drafted him probably 101 or 102 or 103. He's the top 3 pick. You're starting him no matter what. Let's talk about the
Yeah.
tight ends, Jake Ferguson and David Njoku. Both, I think, would be considered top 12 tight ends in the league right now. Are you starting them, or how are you playing that out? Like, you probably drafted these guys to be your top tight end. They're
Yeah.
starters,
No.
right?
Yeah, they're starters.
Yeah.
Especially, I think Joku. I think he will have a pretty decent game as a tight end 1 for you, and so I don't think you would bench him unless you reached on 2 tight ends in your draft for some crazy reason.
Yeah, and I think Ferguson is probably the number 2 option in that offense. I think he'll get targets before Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert, Jalen Brooks, any of those other wide receivers. So I feel pretty good about both those tight ends
Yeah.
going into this game. The thing to watch with Dallas is they've kind of reformed that offensive line, and the Browns have a really great pass rush. So that could jumble things up for them. It could be a tough game for the Cowboys offensively. But I'm still starting CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. Like, you can't roster those guys and not start them.
No matter what. Let's move on. Actually, let's take one step back. Back to the Broncos and Seahawks. We have a question about that. How does Zach Charbonnet factor into Kenneth Walker's carries this week?
I think with the hype though for Kenneth Walker all offseason, I think he just carries a workload. I don't think Zach is really going to take away from him. I think he'll come in here and there, but I don't think he'll really take away from Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, I think it's something to monitor as the season goes on, but I don't think it's a thing you can necessarily plan for going into this game. Last year, Charbonnet never really kind of made any significant progress into eating into Kenneth Walker's work. And that's kind of what we have to go off going into this season, even with a new coaching regime. So yeah, keep an eye on it for sure. I like Charbonnet a lot. I think he's a really talented running back, but until we can count on him to get those carries, he's kind of a no-go. And I don't think you have to worry about it too much if you're starting Walker.
Yeah. Let's move on. Commanders at Buccaneers. We're very close to the finish here. This is the last late game on Sunday. Jaden Daniels also to start his first career NFL game against the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. Outside, obviously, we have Mike Evans. We have Chris Godwin. We talked about Chris Godwin already. Mike Evans is clear cut. I think wide receiver 1, 2-ish in the league. Outside of those two, are you starting anyone else on the Buccaneers? Are we starting Baker Mayfield this week with confidence in a 1 QB league?
I would. I'm a huge fan of Baker, and I think matchup wise with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, I still think he'll finish. I think I had him almost within the top 10 of my rankings for this week. I just think he will play pretty well against the Commanders.
Yeah, he's a fringe guy for me. I like Baker a lot, but I think you're probably not rostering a guy you would start over him, so you're probably good to go. I do expect that Commanders defense to be improved with Dan Quinn coming in. And I like a lot of the additions they made in the offseason. But I think you can feel pretty good about Baker. Should be a positive game script. All things kind of pointing in his direction. I think you can start him. Rachaad White's the other one where if you drafted him, he's probably your RB1 or RB2.
Yeah.
So but a lot of people are expecting Bucky Irving to start eating into that workload that we saw last year from White, and White wasn't super efficient with the workload he had as basically the only running back option in that offense. So he's a guy to kind of monitor in the early part of the season and see if his snap share is going down in comparison to some of the other guys in that backfield.
Derek, this is you're in Commanders country here. Austin Eckler, you starting him this week?
I'm not. I'm avoiding the Commanders offense. The only note I'll make to that is Zach Ertz might be a good streaming option if you're streaming a tight end, just because there are so few. I mean, Jaden Daniels is going to be looking to guys like Ertz to kind of get the ball to, because it's pretty much McLaurin and then question marks. And Ertz is a veteran. Cliff Kingsbury, worked with him in Arizona, so there's some rapport there in that offense. So I do like Ertz in the early part of the season as a streamer, but it's tough. I mean, I think you probably have better options than Brian Robinson or Austin Eckler, and then McLaurin is like a fringe wide receiver too, so you might be flexing him or starting. I'm avoiding that offense if I can.
Yeah. Rams at the Lions for Sunday Night Football. Stafford returns to Detroit for the first time after beating them in LA a few years back. There's a lot of starters in this game. I think this game probably has the most starters outside of the Eagles Packers, and probably Eagles Packers at this point. Jared Goff, I think, is a starter. On the Lions offense, you're probably starting Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta. On the flip side, the Rams, you're probably starting Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Outside, and maybe even Kyron Williams. Outside of those 7 players, anybody else that you're starting in this game, like without a doubt, no question?
Probably not. I mean, you might. Yeah. Stafford is like right on the fringe. If you're streaming at quarterback, Stafford is a great option if he's available. This game has the highest over under, and the Lions and Rams both have really high implied team totals. So this is expected to be a high scoring game. So yeah, really any of those guys though, I'm really excited to have on my roster this week.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Stafford. I mean, just looking off the matchup, the over under and everything, like you can start him most likely.
Yeah. Sleepy Twig, I know you're not the highest on JMO. Does that change with Darius Williams out? On Wednesday, we talked about Jameson Williams and how we're not really impressed with him this season. We don't think this is the season he'll break out. He has never showed that he's going to break out in the NFL. And you got to also fight against Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Sam Laporta for targets. So he doesn't really have a great opportunity to break out, even as a wide receiver too. Darius Williams out. I don't even know. I'll be honest. I don't even know who Darius Williams is. Probably wide receiver 3, I would guess. Do you guys think JMO has a chance of breaking out?
I liked the way they used him in the playoffs. They found different ways to get him the ball. So if they continue doing that, that would be nice. I'm probably not starting him though. It's just too risky. And like I've mentioned with a lot of guys today, I'm okay if I miss his first really good game, I can live with that.
Rams starting corner, not a Lions wide receiver. Well, that explains why I don't know who Darius Williams is, because he's a defensive player and this is a fantasy podcast, so that checks out.
So yeah, okay. I'm probably not starting JMO, but I don't dislike him probably as much as you guys, just because I think if he hits, the upside is really high. Will he hit? I think probably less than 50% chance of that. But if he's a guy that you have at the bottom of your roster, I'm okay with rostering him. But yeah,
let's get to Sean's game of the week here. Jets at 49ers. This is just like a couple minutes from Sean's house. He could probably hear the announcers talk from his house.
Used to be able to hear the foghorn every time they scored.
There you go. So Roger, well, and with a TV delay, that's like a spoiler alert, isn't it?
Oh yeah, big time. Oh, big time.
Oh, that.
Be watching that at the 5-yard line, and then I hear the horn go off. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Well, I know what happens next. Okay, great. So Rodgers is returning from his Achilles injury for the first time since week 1 of last year. I also think he is 6-4 against the 49ers all time, but that was with the Packers. Monday Night Football. God, this is like setting up again for Aaron Rodgers to like.
It's like deja vu.
Like this is weird. Like it's just not in New York this time, which is the weird part. So we obviously have starters in this game. Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, you're absolutely starting because they are top of the position. Like they're both ones in their position. On the flip side, you have Christian McCaffrey, which if he is healthy, has more than just a calf strain. He also apparently has an Achilles injury as well. They've designated an Achilles. I don't know if you saw that today, Sean. Brandon Ayuk got paid. Debo's there. George Kittle's a starter. You're starting all 4 of those guys, right? Or all 6, including Breece and Garrett. Are you starting Brock Purdy this week?
Oh, yeah. No. I actually have him on the bench, but I also have Kyler Murray, so that's why.
Okay. Only one. Derek, are you starting Brock Purdy then?
Yeah, where I have him, yeah, just because I don't have a better option. Okay. But he is kind of a lower end QB1 given the matchup. And yeah, it's kind of how I feel about Ayuk too. I'm a little worried about Ayuk this week. I don't think you're benching him. I just know he didn't participate in the offseason, going up against a really good pass defense. And we kind of saw last year, out of Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle, you can kind of only really expect, a number one position or number one performance at their position from 2 of them. And I think Ayuk might be the odd man out in this game. But like I said, if you have him, you're starting him. I probably wouldn't have him in like DFS or anything like that, just because I'm a little worried about the matchup.
Yeah.
Sean, I know you have comments. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm same. I got to be cautious with Ayuk. Obviously, he worked out with his wide receiver coach all the off season, but that's not game day ready for it, even though he says he is. So I think you prioritize Debo if you have Debo or Kittle over him, obviously. But yeah, you got to be cautious with Ayuk for the first couple of weeks. I think there's always hamstring injury just because he didn't get the same workout and everything in. So yeah, no, I'm on the same boat though.
Yeah, and I think if CMC is limited in any way, that could open the door for Debo to get some carries.
Oh, yeah.
So
also opens up Jordan Mason. If CMC does not end up going, and you happen to pick up Jordan Mason on waivers this week, which I'm thinking about it now. In my family league last night, my wife asked me to check her lineup, And I know she had somebody that was on IR. I put them in the IR spot, or I encouraged her to put her on the IR spot. And then we went up and picked up Jordan Mason. I have Christian McCaffrey on my team. Why did I do that? I don't know why I did that. I'm thinking about this now. I might. Dang it.
Yeah. And if
So,
Mason's still available in your league, go
yeah,
get him.
especially if you have CMC. Now, if you happen to have both, are you starting Jordan Mason over Christian McCaffrey if at that time they say Christian McCaffrey is a no-go?
Yeah.
If he's a
Yeah.
no-go, yeah, I'm definitely.
Yeah,
I think that elevates Jordan Mason to at least an RB2.
Yeah.
At least. He was really good when he was out there last year, even when CMC was on the field. So I would start Mason with confidence if McCaffrey's out. And on
Awesome.
the flip side, from the Thursday, Friday guys, make sure these guys are in your flex spot. That way, if CMC is a late scratch, you can put a wide receiver.
You have
there
more
if you
options.
have to.
Yep, exactly. And that's just a general roster lineup. Always take out your Thursday night games out of your flex, put them into your starting like wide receiver, running back positions. Always put your Monday night and Sunday night in any game after 1 p.m. really in your flex, because it gives you more options just in case last minute scratches or injuries happen.